It's fantasy playoffs time for at least the Sleeper app. Are you going to end up first in your league winning that trophy, or are you going to narrowly avoid being the toilet bowl champion of your league, coming last place? If you want to see where your playoffs are, or if your league is in playoffs, I'll show you really quickly where to go here. So if we go to, oh yeah, it was there. Okay, so if you go to your league, and usually if you tap on the league, it'll take you to the matchup for this week. If you tap on league and then you scroll down, you can see the bracket. I didn't find it extremely intuitive where it was, and they haven't, for my leagues anyways, they haven't put out the weekly recap, which I'm assuming will have something to do with the playoffs. But yeah, something to keep in mind, because there's only 2 weeks of regular season play left in the LCS, and so that's the 2 weeks of fantasy playoffs. So basically the point is up your game if you can, so that you can win that trophy. All right, we're going to go take a look at some stats here. So we'll start in the top lane. In the top lane, you can see Impact had the biggest week, and overall top lane had the largest impact this week with the highest standard deviation. I think we're starting to see that in top lane a little bit more, where these weaker top laners are getting exploited. And, you know, like even Hoonies started playing some Jace into those Gnar matchups. Teams are starting to become a little bit more top centric. And I think part of that reason is because of the jungle changes. I think everyone overestimated them a little bit. Like we still saw a ton of Olaf and a ton of Hecarim. But if you watched the games and saw how the junglers were playing, they were going for ganks a little earlier than they might have otherwise, because they can't just rely on their farming. And if they do pull off that gank, they get farther ahead and their opponent can't catch up by just farming their jungle, right? So because of that, there was quite a few more points in the jungle this week. You'll see the average for jungle was quite high in terms of jungle. Like I can go look at some of the other weeks and they're about 70, 72 was about the highest before, but now it's almost up to 80 for the average jungler. But it was kind of across the board because of the jungle changes, a lot more Skarner, a lot more of these like champions that revolve around fighting instead of like, you know, Graves. Like Graves was still played a lot, but you know, Udyr's not all about fighting. He's about power farming the jungle and showing your lead so that your team is farther ahead at all points, and it's not necessarily always about fighting. So anyways, the point of that is I think the junglers are ganking a little bit more. We saw a little bit more top lane focus. So the top laners were getting more disparity in their points, and the junglers were getting more points overall. If we look at mid lane, it's been these three mid laners have been kind of standout performers across the board. So obviously you probably can't pick up any of those three in this week, but you know that if your opponent has one of them, you really want to step up your ban game. And then potentially for mostly looking at these stats helps for in the summer split, because, you know, we're really only 2 weeks away from starting to prepare for summer split in terms of fantasy anyways. And you can see here overall, it's Perks, Jensen, and Jizuke across the board they're above average mid laners. If we go back to the weekly positions, we can look at who I said was going to be the best for next week. I said that Elfari would be one of the best players last week. I was almost there. He had a really good week for top lane. And I said that Power of Evil would do well. I thought TSM would be much better. Clearly, I was wrong on that. That's why I put it in red. I said Insanity was a good pickup. Also wrong on that. My apologies. I think like he had a couple really good weeks. I even lost one game just because the Insanity on the Victor pick just crushed me. But he didn't look as great this week. And I think that Immortals, they have a decently easy schedule, so maybe look at picking him up still. But you don't want to give up like DeMonte, or definitely no one in the top 3 for him, right? Afromu, I said, was a good support pick to pick up. He's still decent. You know, if you've got Newbie or Destiny, or especially Diamond is not good. When FlyQuest loses, Diamond barely gets any points. Like we're looking at like 1 or 2 point games. So yeah, Afromu is still a good pickup. I feel decent about that one. Smoothie was kind of the outlier here. I swapped Smoothie out for Afromu in one of my leagues. Feels a little bit bad for this week, but I don't believe CLG is really going to be able to capitalize on that. They had one good game against 100 Thieves where they lost, and then they had their good game where they won. So I don't think they're going to be able to keep it up. Maybe I'm just saying that because I'm a CLG fan and I don't want to have faith in them. But that's that's in terms of the stats this week. I wanted to look at overall stats. So this spreadsheet is going over the stats for all of the weeks of spring, and then I've divided it so it's points per game instead of just overall points, and then it says who it was and what week they were. Now I haven't sorted them so that you can look here at the last couple of weeks. So you can see that support in the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of really good support outliers, but overall they've been pretty average. And I think because of that, you're seeing that the support standard deviation here is quite low, right? Like there's no real standout performers necessarily. Sorry, I want to stay on this one, go here. In terms of bot, it's kind of the same. There was a couple of really good bot performers this week. I actually think that's going to stay the same on this patch. Like teams are team fighting a little bit more, and these top bot laners are producing really well. So I think that'll be true next week as well. Mid lane, there was actually nobody in the top. I forget what I've put it at, but 90% is where it turns green, and then 95% is where it turns bright green. So nobody doing really, really well, nobody doing really, really bad. Still, Jensen, Jizuke, Perks in that top percentage. The yellow is just exactly average. So the one that's really interesting here is actually top, and you probably can't see top, so I'm just going to move my head over 1 second here. Video capture. We'll move my head over to the other side quickly. Okay, so in top lane, you can see that Niles has just been absolutely horrible the last couple of weeks. He has all of the worst performances of top laners. Like he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he's quite a bit lower than everybody else. And then you're having like Alfari had a really good week here, pretty good week, and Impact had a pretty good week. So I think that's still going to be true if you can capitalize on some of those better top laners. Like if you can impact your top laner. If you can upgrade your top laner a little bit this week, I think it'll help you a lot in playoffs. So I'll move my head back to the other side here, and we're going to go look at who you can pick up for this week and who's going to be the best. I don't want to disappear. I want the stats to disappear. And so players to pick and the next best for the week. So in terms of players to pick, it's hard to say, by this point, there's been probably a few changes in each league, and it's hard to say who's available. Most of the leagues, like I'm planning this section as if there's an 8-person league, and if nobody has any Golden Guardians players, that really only leaves one player in each role to potentially switch out. So I found it quite hard this week to decide who I was going to do, but I think a good pickup would be Smoothie. If you have a really bad support, I think Smoothie will be better than Destiny, better than Diamond, even though I don't think CLG will win any games. Like he's still consistently been better. So I would potentially pick that one up if you want to upgrade your support. And if you want to upgrade your top laner, I would say Fake God. Top lane has been quite impactful the last couple of weeks, really high standard deviation. And if you can manage to get rid of even Finn to get Fake God, like I think Dignitas will have a much better week this week. So I have the schedule here. Dignitas is playing, so TSM is their first game, a little bit harder, but then they play Golden Guardians and Evil Geniuses. And, EG can be really hit or miss, but Dignitas seem to have their number in the first game. And with that Golden Guardians game, Niles is the weakest top laner by far, and Fake God can really put out some points in that game. So I would say those are the two players to pick up. And then in terms of best for the next week, my prediction is that Tactical will be the best in terms of bot lane. He was the best this last week in terms of AD carry, and I think that'll be true again. TL plays, they've got an easier schedule. They play Golden Guardians as well, and then they play Cloud9, which is a tougher game, but then CLG. So they play the two worst teams in the league. I honestly think every TL player will do really well. So if anyone if you can manage to pick up Tactical because somebody dropped him for Neo or something like that, like any TL player is going to be gold in this week. Personally, that's what I think. And my last pick is actually going to be Huhi. Now I'm going out a little bit on a limb here for Huhi. 100 Thieves they play Golden Guardians as well on Sunday, but their 3 games are Evil Geniuses, TSM, and Golden Guardians. But Huhi's just been really strong in terms of fantasy points. He is the number 1 support performer. Part of that's because 100 Thieves games are going really long. But yeah, I think Huhi will be the top performer this week, even if they don't get 3 wins. So that's my choices on who I think will be for the best for the next week, and hopefully those pickups help. The sleeper pick that I would pick, or not sleeper because that's the app, but the pick that I would say that I'm not going to put the picture up for anything is Xerxes. I think Immortals has an easier week as well. They play CLG, Evil Geniuses, and FlyQuest, so weaker teams, and Xerxes has looked good when Immortals has looked good. He was the worst in the jungle this week, but potentially picking him up instead of Broxa or someone like that. I also think Xerxes is easier to pick champions for as well. So that's it for this week. Let me know how you're doing in your leagues, if you made the playoffs. Make sure you hit subscribe because I'll be doing the picks and bans video on Thursday and going over the meta a little bit more. So yeah, drop a like and may the fantasy odds be ever in your favor.